Hey, this is Carla from the Butcher Babies.
This is George Corner Fisher from Cannibal Corpse.
Hey, this is Rex from Kill Devil Hill. It's Wednesday 13.
This is Dad from Devil Driving.
This is Motorist from Quad. You're listening to Rabid Noise
on Rabid Radio.
Turn it up.
Welcome back to Rabid Noise on Rabid Radio. That was Death Ray by the Devin Townsend Project. And joining us on the program now is the man himself, Devin Townsend. Great to have you on the show again, man.
Thanks, buddy. I am happy to be here.
You're about to hit our shores again in October for a run of shows with Periphery, and this has got to be, what, your 100th time down here?
I think that's being generous. We've only been there 90 some odd, No, we've been to Australia a whole bunch, but I mean, it's always been really cool for us to go there. It seems like we relate, and the shows have been typically pretty cool. So I mean, I'm always looking forward to it. It's just a flight, It's my pleasure to come back. I love it there.
Oh man, we love seeing you come down here and play, and it's always different each time, man. Each time we see you play, it's like, different set, and you change things up a little bit.
Yeah, expect that again this time. I'm trying to make sure that with the amount that we've been there, that we don't, offer the same deal every time we get there, right? We're hoping that it can be interesting for people to see. And I've got luckily I'm prolific, so there's been a ton of stuff since the last time we were together.
And well, the last time we saw you were actually doing the clinic tour.
That's right.
And that was great. That was amazing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was. I was unsure as to what the reaction was going to be because it wasn't guitar-centric in the ways that I assume guitar clinics are supposed to be. But I think for me, it's as much as I love the instrument, it's a tool as opposed to a fetish for me. So I don't have a lot of time or interest in, being a technical instructor in the ways that perhaps other guitarists who are more proficient at that than I am would be. It's just, it's a tool that has allowed me to have a career in music and to articulate myself emotionally. So I went at it from that point of view, and I think it was successful. I think people enjoyed it, and that was the objective.
I was there in Brisbane, man, and I found it really insightful. And I dragged my best mate along with me, and he's not usually into the clinics, but he walked away going, "That was just it was great just hearing you tell stories and play in that room. It sounded so good. It was really cool." You're going to do more of that?
Oh yeah, there's always opportunities to do different things, and I'm finishing off an autobiography right now, and I think that Australian run gave me some insight into how to do sort of a spoken word type of thing in the future. So I hope to do that again, and it would be in cahoots with that book release whenever that is.
That'd be cool, man. Do you think you'd ever do like an audio book or maybe even a podcast series or something like that as well?
Well, I think it's all those things are opportunities that I'd be interested in, but I also have gotten to a point in life and career where I enjoy following my instincts in ways that maybe I didn't as much in the past. And one of those instincts is I don't like being rushed. I don't like doing things for the sake of other people or approval of others, like all of us. But I've finally got to a point where I don't need to constantly put out records in order to sort of get my foot in the door. It's not firmly in the door, but I've got it wedged right now. So I think it's in my best interest to really focus on what my next musical and artistic outlet will be. And doing something like a podcast is a lot like doing a radio show. And I did a radio show for Ziltoid in the UK, and it was so much work, man, because it just seemed like, the reasons for doing it are more just to do it rather than, an aspect of your job or whatever. And so unless I find myself with a ton of extra time, I don't know if I'd be doing a podcast. What is a podcast? There's a question. Isn't it just you talk and people download it? Is that it?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's how actually I got into doing radio, because I love listening to podcasts and just hearing people's stories or interviews or, I really, just things like that. It's really cool. I like it.
Yeah, well, maybe, who knows, maybe my little tirade there will end up with me doing a podcast.
Oh, I'd definitely subscribe.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
cool,
awesome.
man. Henry Rollins is doing one now, and it's really cool. Just hearing his stories, he tells a different story each episode.
Well, they probably, all these people, I'm sure they monetize it though, right? That's probably how they do it. Or they just do it for free. Is that how it works?
Yeah, but it's like sponsored, I guess.
I think that's the thing, that it's like, it's just, I advertise so much music gear now, and it's like, I just find it's just so, for me, I'm just so sick of the advertising aspect of it. It's like I would have a hard time, I think, finding a way to sort of be sponsored to do a podcast with a straight face.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like, I've never thought of it, but, maybe.
See what the future holds.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, it's always exciting what you do. You're always coming up with something new.
Yeah, we'll do a symphony next. That's kind of the thing, right? And it's, I'm just trying to get myself prepared for that, because it's a massive project. Like, just making this all work is a monstrous thing, and I'm sort of doing the legwork right now, and in January is when I start committing it with the arranger and the orchestrator, and so I'm hoping that I can really focus on that right now, and really try and make the next thing I do musically significantly different than what I've been doing for the past few years. And it's not that I am bored of that. I mean, I got a whole other record of DTP stuff and then some written, but it's been a lot of it, and I would like to try something that's maybe a little different. So I think the future right now holds that symphonic thing more than anything else.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've read things over the years that you're influenced heavily by musicals and things like that. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. It's also, as I get older, I find that you're influenced by things, but you also find yourself running out of interest in things. When I was younger, for example, I was really interested in comic books or manga, sort of the Japanese stuff, and now, I mean, it doesn't interest me at all, right? And musically too. When I was younger, I was interested while I was doing strapping in being this incredibly fast and brutal and chaotic thing, and then all of a sudden I just ran out of steam on that. I'm like, yeah, okay, I did that. And then I think it's the same thing with DTP. You do these big sort of melodic, happy sort of statements, and I'm not out of that yet, but there's still a part of me that's just like, okay, well, what's next? What's the next thing that's compelling me? The Casualties of Cool is a nice change for me as well, but life didn't continue along that way. It seems like now there's this new avenue that's opened up that I don't really understand yet, and I'm trying to put the pieces together so when the music starts falling in line, it's an accurate representation of it. But as these things always go, you don't know until you're balls deep in it what it is that you're interested in, right?
I'm going to say that sounds really exciting, man.
It is. I think that if there's anything that I'm really proud of with what I've got going on in my career is I have the opportunity to follow those things. There's some artists and musicians that in order to keep things going, they've got an established thing that they have to be, and they have to sort of keep that rolling, or else it just doesn't work at all. And there's an element of that I got to keep aware of, like the heavy metal thing, and there's a certain group of folks that have allowed me to be where I'm at, and I don't want to be disrespectful of that overtly. But at the same time, I find that with a little bit of caution and a little bit of care, I can follow these things wherever they need to go. And a lot of that just involves going through the process of what each year brings and then trying to articulate that. And there's this sort of gray area that happens in the middle of that process, which I'm in now, where you're like, I don't know where I'm at, but I feel this. It's something to do with this. Something to do with this. It's something to do with this. It's something to do with this color and this shape and this sound and this volume level and this kind of medium, and then it just keeps refining itself, and then before you know it, you got a record or a project or a piece of art or a painting or something, and you can stand back from it and go, oh, that's where I was. And so right now the pieces are kind of just falling into place for the next one.
See, but that's the thing with you. You've always had an open mind with music, and you've never pigeonholed yourself. So you could do anything. You can go anywhere musically, where there's bands out there, especially in metal, that they haven't really, if they go off the path too far, you know, they get massive fan backlash.
I totally see that. I mean, I think what's the thing, that's why I even named that project, you know, Casualties of Cool, right? Because I think if you have been hip for some time, it's difficult to maybe come out and be like, hey, by the way, I'm actually not as hip as I thought I was, or as you thought I was. I remember Metallica in the late 80s, mid 80s, they were hip as shit, you know, they were really cool. And then all of a sudden, you know, James Hetfield has kids and gets sober, and he comes out as someone who I prefer now. Actually, I think he's really inspirational at this point. But he's certainly really geeky now, all of a sudden. And sometimes it's hard to make that transition. However, if you're really geeky from the first minute, then you don't have to worry about that. You know, like, first thing I ever did was the Steve Vai thing, and man, I was geeky as shit, right? So it's not like it's a surprise to anybody when I do things that are left to center. I did strapping for a while, and that was kind of cool, but it was never, even when we toured with bands, it was never like we were part of a hip crowd. It was always this peripheral thing, this sort of weird group of dudes on the side doing this sort of stuff. And I think that's a benefit. I think the metal bands that were really like the flavor of the month, no matter how good they were, I think you'll be struggling to do anything different if that's what people defined you as, right?
Yeah, and I find it actually interesting because it feels like a lot of things in metal have been, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my metal, but it feels like everything has been done and pushed in that area.
I get it.
Where do you think, you know, it's going to go next? I mean, because the 80s, it was all fresh. There was new technologies coming out, and then the late 90s, everyone was pushing the hip-hop crossover thing, and it's like, doesn't feel like there's been any new style or anything coming out of late.
Well, the thing, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next, obviously, but the thing that I miss in metal is blues. Because when I first was being intrigued by the genre, it was because of that influence. It was the Hendrix part of Judas Priest. It was the bluesy part of Black Sabbath, or there was that element of sort of the microtones, and even Iron Maiden, you know, Dave Murray do his solos, and they were really pentatonic based. And there's this sort of sense with all that sort of early metal, Dio even, that sort of connection to the blues that I think when I look back at it, that's what really grabbed me. It was those sort of half bends and those sort of blue notes that they would throw into it. And I think that's what I miss in it currently. You know, there's metal bands now that are astounding. And, you know, I consider myself good friends with some of these metal bands that are, you know, the best metal bands ever, Meshuggah or Gajir or any of these bands. But even them, my relationship with them has evolved into more, you know, friends with them as people. And musically, there's not a lot of time where I find myself craving it, right? When I do, there's nothing better, but it's not often that I get there. But maybe what I'm saying here is just more a result of age than quality of music. I don't want to be one of these, you know, ancient musicians that claims there's nothing good anymore. It's just in that same breath, I've got to be prepared to say, you know, I don't want to hear that. Whether or not it's good, it's not where I'm at. And I think I'm lucky that with my connection to music and with my connection to what I do and my circus of a mind, unfortunately, whatever I do is at least going to be rooted in authenticity, and I think that keeps people listening. If I'm writing something that I know is commercially unacceptable, I find myself going, oh, shit, because I'm not going to stop, but it's going to be a lot more work to try and get people to participate in it. But again, I can either do that and try and do the legwork of saying, hey, you know, it's different, but it's good. Or I could just be like, well, people aren't going to want that, so I might as well make a sucky version of what I've already done and then hope that it will fool people. You know, but it never does. It just doesn't work that way. So.
Man, well, it's like, you know, you did the sequel to, you know, Ziltoid, you know, the Z2, you know, and that just blew up, man. phenomenal. Just everyone
Yeah,
loved
it did.